I actually, listen, if you mess with me, Brian, I have a whole bunch to throw at you. So, there everybody is? So let's just wait for that.
No, one of the things that looks like 50% versus like, so if it were, just has that.
Yeah.
Marisol,
So you have, send us a.
sorry, you're holding us up, man.
And understand this, so hopefully before, it will be where
Jesse, you guys ready? Can I please have a motion to call the public hearing of the annual meetings to order? All in favor? Aye. Pledge of Allegiance. Marisol, can you lead us? The Pledge of Allegiance is followed by a moment of silence in honor of our men and women serving overseas and at home.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the district clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Kennedy? Mrs. Mallon? Present. Mr. Murphy? Mrs. Oculus?
Present.
Dr. Adams?
Present.
Mrs. Napolitano-Curto?
Present.
Mr. Spencer?
Present.
Mr. Colagutar?
Present.
Mr. Hauser?
Present.
And Mrs. Coffey?
Present.
Mr. Hauser, will you present the 2023-2024 proposed budget?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to stand up. Can you guys hear me in the back there? You good?
Do you want me to grab the mic so they can hear you at home?
We can do that. Only because of the people at home, too.
I got the podium blocked. All right, so good evening and welcome to the budget hearing. I will try to make this as exciting and interesting as possible, but like every presentation that involves numbers, that doesn't always happen. So as we proceed, I'm going to try to go as slow as I can to make this presentation understanding so that you'll be able to follow it. And hopefully at the end, we'll have a chance to answer some questions.
Nope, that's every time.
Okay, so this slide, as several of these slides, they're going to be familiar. This is actually the 8th presentation of the budget process here. Down at the bottom, I highlighted in yellow where we're actually at, which is the budget hearing. One key thing I do want to make note of, and I know it might be difficult for you to see back there, but I put this line here, which is the state legislative budget, the school aid estimate. So back on April 18th, when the board met to adopt the proposed budget, we still had not heard from the governor or the state legislature about the final state aid numbers. So the budget was adopted, the proposed budget was adopted, and then subsequent to that, just after the 1st of May, the governor and the legislature released the final state aid numbers. And on a positive note, and I'll show a slide with this, our state aid actually increased about $260,000 from the initial proposal back in February. The next and final step in the process here will be next Tuesday, May 16th, will be the budget vote and also the school board election. Okay, so I do want to focus, as we have, I think in the last two budget presentations, on a lot of the positive things that are happening with our programs and our students in the various school buildings and throughout the district. And Ms. Poppy was kind enough to put these next three slides together, but I just want to go through them because sometimes we do forget all the monies that we are spending and all the monies that we are about to be spending. We should have an idea of where they're going, especially on a positive note to help the students. So we have the new Broadcast Journalism, Art, and English elective course that develops and produces a program called Thundervision, which is the high school's broadcasting outlet. We have 135 students who were chosen for national, state, and regional music festivals. The inception of our new unified bowling and girls flag football teams. Our Science Research One student team named regional winner of the Toshiba and the NSTA Exploravision competition for their project, which was isolating and producing targeted bacteriophages for the eradication of African river blindness. Students are on their way to earning A+ certification through CompTIA, the industry standard for establishing a career in IT. Middle school students learn about coding using the, am I saying it right? Kidoyo platform and Hatch coding language. Elementary students develop critical thinking skills through computer science and engineering instruction, wherein they use discovery methods to solve real-world problems. Connecticut High School Virtual Enterprise Dream Team became the first district virtual enterprise firm to qualify to compete in the national round of business plan competition. And last, Connecticut High School's summer internship program provided opportunities for students to gain workforce skills and experience. The Sequest program has been reinstated for select 4th and 5th grade students and provides unique academic enrichment opportunities for students. And district-wide, our library media centers gained Prusa, 3D printers for use by all students. Our library media specialists are facilitating students' use of Tinkercad to manifest their 3D printing visions. And through a partnership with High School Esports League, Connecticut High School has launched a competitive esports program. Student teams are competing in the interscholastic spring major season. Okay, so here, once again, I know it's difficult maybe back there to see some of this, but I'm going to try to go slowly line by line here because in this presentation was posted, I believe it finally posted this morning up on the district's website. So it'll be there as well for anyone to see. But this slide is the summary of where we are finally at in the budget process. And up on the top line here, this is really one of the more important lines right now because this is what the community is actually voting on. You're voting on the proposed expenditure budget, okay, where if we carry it all the way to the far right, it comes with a 3.84% spending increase. And as I have said in the last few presentations, we believe after going through each of the line items in this budget, that we feel 3.84 is a very reasonable and financially responsible increase, especially in light of these significant increases we're seeing in other major line items throughout our budget. Down here, this pretty much explains how we're actually going to pay for the spending. Okay, so I have here a detailed list of all the various reserves and our fund balances that the monies are coming from. Right, I highlighted state aid here because, as I mentioned a little earlier, when the governor and the state legislature released the final aid number, and our aid went up approximately $260,000, I'm going to say this loudly. If we take that increase that we did incur with state aid, and if we use it the way I feel we should use it, it'll have the effect of lowering the tax rate throughout the community from what we had been saying at 3.20%. It'll get it down to approximately 2.95%. Now that number is very tentative because the town doesn't set the assessed value till approximately September, sometimes even October 1st. So we don't know the true tax rate until the town of Islip actually releases the assessed value. But I believe with the new state, the final state aid number, we will be able to keep the tax increase to the community below 3% at 2.95%. And what does that mean to people in the community who own homes? Down at the very bottom here, I listed 4 scenarios. I've done this several times now throughout the presentations. And I'll just give you an example. If we look at a home that's assessed at about $40,000, okay, they should expect to see an increase in their school taxes, not the whole tax bill, but just the school taxes of about $233 a year. Okay. Okay, this slide here, up at the top, it shows the total amount of money, the total revenue, $215,379,000. That equals the actual spending budget. And I just broke out here all the money that we expect to bring in to pay for the budget. What percentages of the total revenue? So when we look at our fund balance, we look at our reserves. Okay, we're looking at about 10%. Those revenues actually support the budget. When we look at state aid, okay, we're just over about 25%. So a quarter of our budget is actually supported by state aid revenue. And then we look at the tax levy, the amount of money that the residents, residential, commercial, are levied. That's almost 2/3 of the budget. Okay, so I just broke this out a little bit so you can see where the sources of revenues are coming from. This slide here just shows our school district. The next slide I'm going to do a comparison of 2 other districts. But this slide here just shows when the governor back in February released the initial state aid numbers, okay, we were looking to see our state aid get decreased in total. But what I want to be really careful here is when people talk about state aid, okay, state aid is made up of about 11 different lines. So when we try to compare, say, Connecticut to our neighboring districts, we should be very careful to take a look at each one of these lines and how we are affected and also how other districts are affected. But back in February, we were slated to have a decrease of about $113,000 in our total aid, when the governor finally released the state aid numbers, about May 1st, we actually saw a positive 151,000, which translated into about 0.25% increase in state aid. So if you take what I would call the swing, all right, of the negative 113, and you add it to the 151, somewhere around $264,000 was the positive, okay? I am going to focus on the next slide on the foundation aid, all right? As you can see, of our total aid, 56 million, 35 million is foundation aid. So I think that's an important one to spend a little bit of time on. The others certainly are important, but that one I think is going to help explain state aid a little bit. So here's a slide that I put together because I was hearing, I was receiving a lot of questions about neighboring districts and how come they're receiving so much state aid, yet Connecticut is only getting a small 0.25% increase. So what I did is I took each of the lines for state aid that we receive, and I put down Smithtown School District, okay, and I also put down Central Islip School District. I just picked those two because those are the questions that I was getting, especially Central Islip. How come they're getting a 28% increase in state aid? Why is Smithtown getting a 7% increase, and yet we seem to be getting this small increase in state aid? So I highlighted foundation aid. And as you can see, Connecticut, we got our 3%, okay, that's the minimum. That's the minimum the school district will receive in state aid. You come over to Smithtown, they got 12.83% increase in foundation aid. And then if you look at Central Islip, they got a 37% increase in state aid for foundation aid. So the question is, why? Why did Connecticut get such a small amount compared to those two districts? I don't want to get into this elaborate formula that makes up foundation aid because I think it might be a little too complicated and it might not go as smooth as I try to explain it. But one of the examples I wanted to try to highlight here is, if you look, there's 4 pieces of information I put down here about each of the 3 districts. One of them is what's called the combined wealth ratio. The other is what they call the weighted student enrollment. Then I put the foundation aid per student, and then I put the total foundation aid that a district should receive, okay? So what's important here is the combined wealth ratio, which takes into consideration the amount of money that a school district, let's say the homeowners, might show on their tax returns, okay? Connecticut, 1.0 is the state average. Connecticut is just about 5% over the state average. So we're pretty much in line with what the state says the wealth ratio should be of a school district, okay? If you come over here to Smithtown, they have a number of 1.35. So Smithtown technically has a wealth ratio that's 35% beyond what the state average is. So we're looking at a district that's they're wealthier than, say, Connecticut. And then, if you come over to Central Islip, okay, they don't have the 1.0. So they don't have the average. They're only 41% of the state average. So you're looking at Central Islip not being nearly as wealthy as Smithtown, nor our district, okay? And that plays an important role, that one number, in foundation aid. The next number, the weighted average of our enrollment, okay? This is not the actual enrollment of a school district. It's weighted mainly because certain students who may be classified, special education, are weighted a little heavier, so it tends to inflate the enrollment. But For comparison purposes, you can see Connecticut, right around 6,500, Smithtown, 9,800, and Central Islip, 9,000, okay? Now, here's the very interesting number. The state calculates how much money each district should receive in foundation aid. So they've calculated our foundation aid to be a little over $5,000 per student. If you do some quick math and you take the weighted enrollment and you multiply it by how much the state should give us, okay, you come up with about $34 million, 161,000. That's important because if you do that quick calculation and that number is less than the current foundation aid, it's less than the current foundation aid, the state says, we're gonna hold you harmless and we're gonna give you the minimum increase, which is at 3%, okay? So very important, these numbers here and how they play a role in foundation aid. When you come over to Smithtown, okay, you take the 9,800 students, the state's only given Smithtown $3,300 per student, more than likely because their wealth ratio is so high, okay? You do the quick math, you come up with $33 million. Right now, Smithtown's only getting $29 million. So the state says, Smithtown, your number that we calculated is higher than what you're currently receiving. We're going to, quote, make you whole, okay? So they put Smithtown on the formula, and Smithtown winds up getting, here's the calculated number, here's their proposed aid for next year, okay? Hence, that's the reason why Smithtown is getting a 12.83% increase, okay? And I'll just carry it one step further, take a look at Central Islip, okay? A less wealthier district than us and Smithtown, they get $17,000 per student, and that's their calculated rate. If you take their 9,000 students and you multiply it by the 17,000, you come up with 160 million is the foundation aid that Central Islip should be receiving. How much are they actually receiving? 116 million, okay? So the state now steps in and says, your calculated amount is more than what we're giving you, you're gonna get the calculated amount. So Central Islip's getting 160 million for the next school year, which comes out to be a whopping $43 million increase, or 37%, all right? So I put that slide up there just to show you two districts in comparison to Connecticut, somewhat neighboring districts, different wealth ratios, different enrollment, but hopefully it just gives you an idea why Connecticut only got 3% and why the other districts got more than that, okay?
How do they determine how much per student?
That's a very good question. That's the formula, the foundation aid formula. We would really have to get into the, I'll say the nitty gritty as to how that formula is calculated. It does play a role in the wealth ratio and the amount of income that's brought into a district, so.
Does that also rely on free and reduced lunch? Does that also rely on free and reduced lunch?
Yeah, there is a component of foundation aid that relies on the free and reduced price percentage. Yep. Okay. All right, so I'm going to change gears here for a minute. And I think this is another positive slide, especially for the community, because about 12 years ago, the state enacted what's called the tax cap, which is commonly referred to as the 2% tax cap, okay? And what I did here, I went all the way back with the superintendent's help to 2016, and we showed how much the state said we are allowed to collect from the taxpayers versus how much we actually collect. So all the way back in 2016, okay? The school district could have collected another $450,000 from the community towards the school budget. We did not, okay? We did not collect that money. Had we collected that 450, we would have collected it every year, okay, all the way up now until 2024. So that's why I showed the yellow numbers. Same thing when you come to 2019, okay? The state said we could have collected another $1.8 million in school taxes from the community. The district did not do that, okay? So once again, I carried that number because had we collected it, we would have collected it each year thereafter. If you add up all the years that the district did not collect the monies from the community, the total is a little over $30 million, okay? So I believe, in my opinion, this slide shows to some extent how fiscally responsible the district is when doing the budget, that we are given an amount that we're allowed to go up to, and for the most part, we never exceed that. We actually collect a lot less, okay? And here, this is just a summary to show you where the monies that we intend to spend for the following school year, the different categories, so that you can see whether it's general support, really administration, central office, facilities, whether it be instruction, okay, transportation, the amount of money we spend on benefits for employees, the amount of money we spend on principal and interest for our borrowings. And then down here is the amount of money we spend on our school lunch program and also our special aid program in the school, which is really a summer program as an example. Okay, how does this district affect the taxpayers in the community? So I gave you one example of a home that's assessed at $40,000, I think I said around $233 on average. Here I just said, if you want to break it down by month, okay, if there's a house that's assessed at $50,000, it's about a $24 increase per month for a home that's assessed at $50,000. And I gave 3 other scenarios down here. A home that's assessed at $10,000, they should expect to see a $58 increase for the year. A home that's assessed at $30,000 should expect to see a $175 increase. And then a home that's assessed at $50,000 for the year, about a $291 increase. So the wonderful contingency budget slide. So this is what I call the doomsday slide. This is if the community does not approve the proposed budget, all right, worst case scenario, we would have to go to a contingency budget, all right? And this is part of what's called the district's 6-day notice that gets mailed out to the community, where we have to show you what would happen under that scenario. So if the proposed budget is $215 million, okay, the contingency budget is about $212. So we're looking at having to cut just shy of $3 million if we had to operate on a contingency budget. The most important thing about a contingency budget, though, if we had to operate, is right down here. For the most part, what it says is we're not allowed to collect $1 more from the community than we are currently collecting. So if we ever had to operate on a contingency budget, we would have to operate with all the increases, cost of living increases, especially to operate the district, with $0 more dollars than we're currently collecting from the community. Not a very pleasant scenario, and I hope we never have to experience that. Okay, so next Tuesday, There will be a proposition on the ballot. Unlike last year where there were several propositions, this year there will only be one, okay? And we will, the proposition will be asking the community to vote on the current proposed budget, which comes with a 3.84% increase, okay? And that's under the tax cap. Okay, this is just a reminder here, once again, that the budget is coming in under the tax cap. All right, next Tuesday is the vote for the budget as well as the school board election. Okay, the polls will open at 8 a.m., they'll close at 9 a.m., and the voting location.
9 p.m.
Thank you, 9 p.m. At the high school, and the 2 middle schools. And I think that may be the last.
And if you go on our district website, it'll tell you which polling place is yours if you put your address in.
Great job.
Bob, that was awesome.
Thank you, Bob. Great job.
Thank you, Bob.
Excellent presentation. So go ahead, I'm gonna give you that. Public comment on the public hearing only. I will now open the floor for the public comment portion of the agenda. This public comment period is for comments or questions on the proposed 2023-2024 budget only. The time available will be limited to 3 minutes for each speaker. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping up to the podium. You should have received a numbered card from security on your way in. If you have not, please see a security guard at the back of the room. Is there a number one?
I don't think we got cards.
Okay, is there anybody who would like to speak? Go ahead.
When we have a bond, we get a certain amount of money back from the state. Where does that appear in the budget?
So great question. When the community approves a bond, and we go out and actually perform what we would call the capital project work. Once the projects are substantially complete, it starts the process for us to receive building aid. Mr. Allen, am I correct, around 2/3 of the project's eligible?
Yep, 67%.
So 67% of every dollar we spend that qualifies, we get that back in the form of building aid.
Okay, that's the line.
Yep, so that's that line that I showed.
I saw that. Okay, very good. I think the elephant that we have to worry about is what the governor has told us about our buses. That I believe in 2027 or so, we're not going to be able to use diesel buses and
We're not gonna be able to purchase.
purchase diesel
We'll still
buses.
be able to use till 2035, but we can.
Okay, then we'll have to just at that time run out the buses until they're no longer serviceable. That is going to be our biggest problem. Okay. It's just waiting around the corner. Time goes by fast. Okay.
Thanks, Ed. Is there anybody else who'd like to ask a question? Come on.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, Mr. Hauser, I'm just confused, literally. Need help here. That numbers that you spoke of this evening was that we were getting an additional 3.2% increase in state aid. And that would mean that, here's the numbers I'm confused out. Put them all together and I'll throw you the football. Okay, 3.20 additional in state aid. And another number you said about state aid was 2.95. And then when I look at your last page, that the increase to the taxpayer is 3.84%, I'm bewildered.
Good questions. So number one, you mentioned the 3.20%.
Right.
If you and I are on the same page and we're talking about the same number, that was the proposed levy. Okay, that's how much money we were anticipating
Okay,
assessing the community before the governor and the legislature came out with that final state aid number. Once we got our final state aid number, and we saw the increase of about $264,000. That should be able to bring down the amount of money we need to collect from the community from a 3.20% increase to a 2.95% increase. So
Okay.
it talks about I think we're talking about the monies we need to
Okay,
collect.
now I get that. So now do the 3.84%, because
Yep.
I'm thinking it should be 2.95, but I'm misunderstanding. I understand that.
So the 3.84, that's the spending increase. So the amount of money we're spending this year to operate the district, we're anticipating having to spend 3.84% next year. So the aid number that I'm talking about, that's just helping us pay for that number. So that 3.84 remains the same.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to ask a budget question? Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Does the board have any?
No, my question has been answered previously.
Thank you. Okay, introduction of board candidates. Candidates will be able to introduce themselves to the Board of Education and may briefly provide their background, how long living in the district, family, education, and employment. No campaigning is allowed at the Board of Education meetings. The candidates will be called up based on ballot order, which was determined by a random drawing conducted by the district clerk in front of witnesses, including 2 candidates, Jackie DiLorenzo and April Iannatelli. I'm sorry if I said it wrong.
It's all right.
And the superintendent. So the first Board of Ed candidate that will be asked to speak from 2023-2024 will be Jacqueline DiLorenzo. If I say your name wrong, I apologize in advance.
This is quite different from my few years of being at this podium. I am Jackie DiLorenzo, and I am a lifelong resident. Graduated in 1998 from Connecticut. I work at Connecticut Public Library. I actually started out with a math background. I had my BS at Stony Brook, applied math and statistics, and I went to get my master's in library and information science from St. John's University. And I'm at the library for, like I said, it's over 20 years. I'm a children's librarian for about 15 years. I love working with kids, like preschool to grade 5. It's great. We do a lot of science, STEM. It's really, really fantastic. I have 3 kids of my own. My oldest is middle school and loves to runs track. My middle guy is a baseball player, and my little girl is a dancer. Like her mama, I love to dance. Like I said, this is very different from my usual. As far as any community involvement, I do all sorts of things. I'm on Bohemian Civics as a secretary, I'm in PTAs, Mental Health Advisory Council, Curriculum Committee with Ms. Pocky. And I want to thank you all for being here. And I also just want to add that in the, Meet the Candidates events that we've had such really positive exchanges, all 5 candidates. And including, some positive exchanges I've had privately with Melissa, where we've kind of encouraged each other through everything that's gone on. So I'm looking forward to next week, and I just want to wish everyone lots of luck. And thank you.
Number 2 will be Mylin August.
You think that's strange? Last time I was behind a mic was about 9 years ago. Oh, where are my glasses? So hello, I'm Mylin August. I am married 29 years.
You gotta talk into the mic so that the people at home can hear.
Hello, I'm Mylin August. I am married 29 years. I have 3 amazing kids. My first son, he is married to a school teacher. He owns a pizzeria. And when he met his wife, or future wife at that point, I knew she was the one. Amazing, amazing. She's an amazing mom, amazing wife, and gave me 3 beautiful grandchildren. My husband used to tease me, and still teases me, you gotta learn to say no. And I'm like, that's not Mimi's job, Mimi don't say no. I have my son Matthew, who graduated top in his class, and he's currently a mechanical engineer. Then I have my baby girl, who is in her 3rd year for pre-med and has recently been certified for EMT. And then I have my 3 fur babies. I am currently an accountant, and I work with my clients for personal tax returns, for personal business tax returns. When I was pregnant with my daughter, my husband and I decided, okay, 3 kids, 2 working parents, it's going to be a little tough. So we decided that at the time that I'd stay home for a while and just be with the family. And it was the most rewarding experience I've ever had, because it allowed me to be hands-on with my kids. It also allowed me the opportunity to get involved in a lot of community events, school events. And I have so many to list, too many to list. I have 25 years on my resume, and I was trying to think back, I'm like, okay, what should I add? I'm like, too much. What I will share is some of my memorable moments. I remember the first time coaching Little League. I was going to pick up the roster at Joe Torre Little League, and I had the coaches, they're snickering, and I'm like, smiling. I'm like, okay, something's up here. I don't like what's going on here. I get the roster. I have my first practice with my boys. Who's kicking the dirt? Who can't throw the ball? And I'm like, who can't throw a bat? Who can't swing a bat? And I'm like, that's why I got those boys. And I was proud to say at the end of that first year, we won the division for their age group. So I went around, I'm like, yeah. So it was truly a bad news bear experience. But I have served on, like I said, many committees. I have served on many Board of Ed committees. I have served on many parent committees. I have been yearbook and fundraising and school newspaper editor, and I've served on the PTA boards. I've done scholarships and yearbook and talent show. I am currently the lead organizer for the Stop Island Hills, and it's been a very rewarding experience because it's really hands-on with my community. And I have to say, we won round 1 against the town for that one, so I'm very big accomplishment. I'm not going to bore everybody with all my resumes here with my volunteer efforts, but I would like to say that I was recognized for my community involvement. I was presented a proclamation by our local county legislator, Anthony Picarella, I should know that name, for Woman of the Year for distinction for community advocacy. So, thank you. So when I reflect back on my years of volunteering, there's so many to count. And one of the things that is really stuck to my heart was when I started the talent show at Boston. And I'm not going to do a long story about that. But what those kids showed me was courage and determination behind the curtain. They're a little afraid to get up on that stage. And it showed me that every time I have to go before an audience and I'm a little bit nervous, I look back at all those kids and it just impressed me that I can do it too. So I want to thank those kids who gave me the courage to speak in front of people. I just want to end with that I've been a resident of Connecticut for almost 2 decades. It was the place my husband and I chose to raise our family. I have 2 proud T-Bird graduates, and the education experiences that they had here far exceeded any expectations that I could have ever had for them. I am proud to call Connecticut my home.
Craig? Then we move on to April. Iannatelli.
Hello, my name is April Iannatelli. I am not one that really enjoys talking about myself, so I'll do my best. I feel like I've done this spiel nonstop the last month, so for anybody who's already heard it, I apologize. I also am a long-standing Connecticut community member. I'm an alumni of Connecticut. I have 3 children. All my children have gone through Connecticut. My oldest is going into her last year of medical school. My son is at Florida State College, and my youngest is a 9th grader at the high school. I also have served on many PTA boards. I've served in every position on those boards and have been the president. I've coached several youth soccer teams. During my time coaching, I ensured that their safety of the players was my main concern. I made sure I was CPR certified and took many classes to, again, make sure their safety was my first concern. I currently work in procurement. I work with government bids and millions of dollars a day. I am hoping that will serve me well with the budget and navigating through everything for the school and the district. I don't know what else to say. All I can say is, I guess, once a T-bird, always a T-bird. Thank you.
Our last candidate tonight is Melissa Torregrossa.
I had a feeling I wasn't going to be tall enough. Alright. Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Torregrossa. I just kind of want to first start thanking Jackie. April Craig's not here, but what she said is very true. I think that the five of us have really been kind to each other in a time that it's really difficult, and that's, it's extremely important. This is mentally trying, so I do appreciate that. I appreciate everybody. So I graduated from Connecticut in 2010, and similar to kind of what April said, and Mylan, I loved the experience I had here. I believe it set me up for the person I've become today. There's been like a recent uptick in interest of like a gap of my life from 2010 to now. So I graduated, I went straight to Suffolk. I got my first of 2 associate's degrees because I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I did just an associate's in liberal arts, and then decided I'm just gonna work. Took some time, I tried a few things. I tried to go back to school for psychology. I didn't really like it. I tried to go for being an EMT. I really didn't like that. So I took some more time. I needed to do a little bit of self-exploration. I needed to learn some things about myself, and I think that's what made me who I am today. I try not to live in that past anymore. I try to go forward. So with that, I am now currently, next week, graduating from Stony Brook with my Bachelor of Social Work, a 4.0 GPA. I'm in 3 honor societies. Thank you. I shocked myself a lot with that, and I think that's a really cool thing. And I will begin my master's program this fall. I don't have any concern that I will graduate. It's a 1-year advanced standing program, so in 2024, it will have a specialization in community policy and political social action, because that is what's important to me. For me, my volunteering and my social action has been on a kind of wider scale level, because I kind of find it a little bit difficult right now if you do not have kids in the district, because I am not a parent right now, which is okay, to find like your place a little bit. So I kind of do some legislative advocacy. That's really important to me. I believe all of those decisions from that level trickle down here, which has kind of been fun for me to learn to read all of these policies too, as wonderfully worded as they are sometimes. So for me, I believe that Connecticut set the basis for the person that I am with the people that are in those buildings. And I can't ever thank the district enough for who I became as a result of that, and I just want to see that continue over time. And I don't want to lose sight of that. So with that, I'm really excited. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. This is a crazy new experience I never expected to have, but I hope that everybody gets out on Tuesday and votes. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you all for being here, for speaking. Good luck to all of you. Can I please have a motion to adjourn the public hearing of the annual meeting? Second. All in
All the
favor?
candidates on Tuesday, good luck.
Good luck, everyone. I mean, good luck, everyone.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.